Sometimes in order to feel bigger than we've ever felt, to grow into our potential, we have to feel small and insignificant. And what do I mean by this? Because in many ways it sounds counterintuitive. No one wants to feel less than. No one wants to feel insignificant. But it's in positioning ourselves to feel that we understand the walls we place around ourselves. We understand how big life is and us while we're here on planet Earth, walking around, navigating our day-to-day lives. We are but raindrops in a thunderstorm. We are a snap. And I think understanding that we are a pawn on the chessboard of life, we are a cog in a wheel, it allows us to take some of that pressure off and free ourselves up to be our beautiful, authentic, powerful selves. Life is a game. It's an opportunity. It's abundance. Yet we default to, well, I don't want to screw up. I don't want to lose what I have. I don't want to make mistakes. And that's the wrong way to look at life. The other day I was at the Grand Canyon, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with it, but for those who aren't, it's one of the most beautiful, magnificent, almost hard to comprehend, just incredible landscapes I've ever seen. It goes on forever. It's breathtaking. It's almost like as you're standing on the edge of that cliff looking out at forever, at infinity, you realize how small the corner of life you live in is compared to this. You realize how big and grandiose the world is, and by the way, the Grand Canyon is just a small part of it. Yet, we are often confined to four walls. It just makes you realize how small we tend to think, how we box ourselves in, how we limit our potential just by stepping out and looking at the sheer magnitude of this landscape. Which, by the way, would swallow you up and continue moving on as if nothing happened. It screams of your insignificance. Now again, you might think, well, that's negative. I don't want to feel insignificant. No, insignificance in its own unique way is freedom. It's freedom to make the move. It's freedom to try things. It's freedom to take those steps you've always wanted to take, because why not? Because at the end of the day, the clock is going to run out. There's no escaping that. Right? The phrase goes, the thing about life is no one makes it out alive. And when you think of yourself as sort of high and mighty or avoiding the wrong things, trying not to break things, you miss out. The beauty of being a raindrop in a thunderstorm is there's flexibility, there's freedom. No one's looking at you, no one's pointing and waiting for you to mess up. These are things that we create in our own minds about ourselves. These are stories and narratives we write about why we shouldn't. But when you're on the ledge or the edge of that cliff looking out, you realize maybe things don't matter that much. And maybe that is a beautiful thing. Because maybe that's your reason to try the craft, start the journey, make the call. Maybe that's your rationale for looking around and going, I've been standing here too long. I've built walls around myself. I've confined myself to a world that is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what's out there. We are small. And the only mistake you can make is to not go and not try. That trip was incredible for me. I want to say it was life-changing because it was a reset in a way. It was you're taking yourself too seriously. You're holding on to what is instead of opening your wings and attacking what can be. Don't ask why, ask why not. The universe is infinite, and we're lucky enough in this moment to play a very small part. As is said in the Dead Poets Society, we get to write a verse in the great play of life. So stop thinking about ourselves, or we should stop thinking about ourselves as self-important, and instead cherish the freedom and the opportunity. Because we'll be gone in the blink of an eye, and that Grand Canyon will still be there. The sun will still rise. The stars will still be out there in the night sky. The question is, will we capture that moment? Will we do something beautiful with it? You can, you're able to, but will you? That's the question I have for you today. Perhaps the most important mental shift, completely changed my life, is this. Stop looking for answers and become the answer. So before I unpack this, I want to give you a little context. I, over the last 10 years, have lived in a few places. I've lived in Boston, I've lived in South Florida, love them both. Currently, last year, I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and you follow your intuition, sometimes you just get it right. Like, I love this place, I love the weather, I love the hiking, and I think most importantly, the people, the community, the network, the friends I already have. I mean, it's just a beautiful place. Everyone's warm, welcoming. It's very transient, right? So it's not very cliquey. It feels like people are just accepting and always trying to meet new folks. And it's awesome. With that, what I've found interesting is there is a culture of like pop-up networking events. And I separated a little bit from some groups that I'm involved in with the same people where we're meeting regularly, once a month or whatever. But there are just there's an influx of there's a networking event here, everyone come, networking event here, everybody come. And it's kind of sporadic. There was one that happened in a conference room below where I live, right? Same building. I had some friends there. So I thought, you know what? I'll go down and some incredible people doing some incredible things. And one of the conversations that was being had, or the message that was being expressed, was essentially this. It was, you're one handshake away from your life changing. You're one relationship away from your business taking off. That thing you need just might be the accountant or videographer or editor sitting in this room, right? Which on the surface, sure, why not? You always benefit from having talented people in your life, from having killers on your team and great, working relationships, absolutely. But I couldn't help but think that idea could be deceptive, that in a way it's missing the mark, because I'm looking around the room, myself included, by the way, and I'm thinking, I bet every single person in this room would be better off if they took these 4 hours, right, the 2.5 to be in the room, and then I'm sure, people had to drive to the meeting room, so let's just say a full evening. They'd be better off if they took that, went home by themselves, asked themselves, how can I be better, and worked on being the 1% at what they do. And the reason I think that's so important is because I want to say societally, but I just think perhaps it's an algorithm thing online, the content we're pushed, the stories we're told. It's outsourcing value. So it's, here's how you get rich online. Here's how you have an amazing network of people that will change your life. When in reality, all of those things are lagging indicators, meaning they come secondary. And they come secondary to becoming more valuable. When you ask yourself consistently, how can I be better at what I do? How can I be the 1% at what I do? How can I be so exceptional? Or as the quote says, so good people can't ignore you. All those things come. When you're a killer at what you do, people with talent want to be a part of it. You get calls and emails. You get DMs because you're adding value. When you're adding value in a meaningful way, you're making money because you're contributing to a marketplace. It seems so obvious that we forget. And I'm certainly not saying I am the 1% of what I do, but I can tell you I'm locked in on that. And I understand that. And there are hours spent in this very room every day writing and speaking so that I can become closer to that. Because I know when you have achieved that in your world, all that other stuff accompanies it. Period. So don't interpret this as networking bad, money bad, right? Of course not. But they're secondary, they're lagging. If you focus on how do I become exceptional, what do I do every day that makes me different, stand out, that makes me great, you're positioning yourself to go to the moon. You're positioning yourself to have all these other things. The network should supplement the greatness. Just don't forget to work on the greatness, right? Life changes when you stop looking for answers and become the answer. Sometimes we don't understand how much we appreciated or valued something until it's gone. And until it's outside of our lives and there's a space where that thing used to be, and we think, man, I just want to return to normalcy. I want to go back to how things were, to baseline. And there's a million practical examples of that. Health is an easy one. Physical fitness. You hurt your knee and you're a runner. Man, 2 weeks for this to heal? I just want to be able to do what I did yesterday. For me, I used to get crazy migraines, right? And I'd wake up some days and wouldn't be able to open my eyes. And I'd just be in bed okay, clear the schedule. And I'd be thinking, I can't wait for normalcy to feel how I felt yesterday. People coming and going. Man, I loved this person. I missed this person. Yesterday when they were here, I didn't think anything of it. That return to normalcy. There's a saying that a healthy person wants 1,000 things. A sick person wants only one. And I think it speaks to the world that exists just beyond our periphery. It's very hard to see the good because human beings are wired to focus on the negative. To avoid pain, to avoid suffering, to avoid loss, we're wired for safety. Negativity bias. That scenario, 2 people at dinner, 99 times, it's the best dinner they've ever had. They go to the restaurant all the time, they rant and rave about it. But on the 100th time, there's a cockroach on the plate. Now what? That dinner is forever tainted as the cockroach place. The negative thing outshines everything else. And in a way, that's how we are wired. We don't wake up every day and go, man, I'm so lucky. Think about how much I have. Think about how good life is. No, we don't appreciate or value things so much of the time until they are gone. And there's something that, as I've learned over the last couple of years, is gravely missed. And that thing is perspective. How do I get perspective? Gratitude. It forces you to appreciate how much you have in a way that, in the cyclical, fast-paced nature of life, you just wouldn't. You would skip it. And so what do I mean when I say gratitude? Here's the beauty, nothing crazy. Very simply put, carving out time to say what's on your mind, to say what you appreciate, to look around and go, yeah, I'm grateful for that. You know, I'm excited about the things I have to do for work today. How lucky am I that I get to do what I love for work? Or that there's people that I know if I call them, they'll pick up on the other end and I can have a conversation with them. You know, the people I get to work with, family, friends, like that's insane. That's crazy. That's such a beautiful thing. You know, living here, shelter, food, things that we never think about, particularly being in the Western world. There's not power outages every hour, right? But that's not the case for everyone. Like it's a blessing. And, you know, it can come across as corny and cliche, but what I've learned is it's not. It's truly armor. Because when you inevitably hit those challenges and those obstacles, they just seem smaller when you're grounded and understand how much you have and how lucky you are and who's around you and how far you've come. Life is a perspective game, you know, and so you have to manufacture that perspective. It's not what exists, it's how you see what exists. And I'm going to give you an example. So let's say I had a partnership with a social media company, and I'm super excited about this partnership. So locked in. Love the brand, love their story, and I want to take that and inject, you know, my creativity into it and create lots of awesome content and create a campaign and just do all these things. And it's like, this is going to be amazing. And then I find out, for whatever reason, not happening, right? Parties can't agree, whatever it is, done. So naturally, the rug's pulled out from under my feet. I'm going to feel disappointed, going to feel sad, going to feel lost, going to feel like, you know, I had it all figured out and now I don't. That little cycle of things. Now take that exact same scenario. But before I find out the news, I'm outside, my notebook's open, and I'm spending 5 minutes talking about or thinking about how lucky I am to be able to tell these stories, to be able to help people, to be able to connect with an incredible community, to be able to call friends and family when I need to be part of a team, to live where I live, all these things, right? Sigh, smile, close the notebook, walk inside, and then I find out, yeah, Eddie, that partnership's not happening. Okay. It seems way less monumental when it's put next to the thoughts that I just documented on that page. You know, I love what I do and I have the ability to do more of it, so who cares? Learn and move on. Right? That perspective is everything. It's so much of life I find, and it's why obviously I'm so fascinated with mindset, is because our external reality is so often predicated by how we think, the stories we tell ourselves, how we position ourselves to walk through chaos and the unknown. Someone sent me, I think it was from Brad Lee, a little video of him speaking, and he says, you know, how many of you want $1 million? Everyone wants $1 million. Okay, what would you do for $1 million? People would do a lot. They'd give up a lot. $1 million would be a real nice thing. Okay. What if I'd give you $1 million, but tomorrow you wouldn't wake up again? No one wants that. No one would take the money. Couldn't use it, right? Which, by default, means every morning when you open your eyes, it is worth more than $1 million. It's worth more than any sum of money. It's invaluable. Yet we are not wired to think that way. We don't get out of bed in the morning and go, what a gift. We get out of bed and go, what do I have to do today? What's on the agenda? What's the plan? How long till I have to go to work? Right? And it's this reframing of life that positions us not only to be more content, but also to experience more of life. So I scream from the rooftops about practicing gratitude because that perspective shift, again, has been armor for me. It's given me so much momentum and clarity as I push through life. And I want to share that with you and offer or suggest that you do the same. And the beauty is it's so simple and it's so quick and it doesn't need to be complex. You don't need anything fancy or any tools. You just need to close your eyes and think for 2 minutes. And that little internal dialogue, will become pretty powerful as you make your way through life. A good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan executed next week. That's from George Patton, general in the United States Army, integral to the Allies' victory in World War II. So why? What makes this statement so powerful? Well, it rings true because we have to move beyond the idea that we can manufacture greatness with one swing of the bat, one stroke of the pen. That if we wait for the right moment, perfection will come. The light will turn green, the stars will align, and the path will emerge. I feel like I could scream this from every mountaintop and it wouldn't be enough. Life is not a perfection game. Life is an adjustment game. And I'll speak anecdotally here. In my experience, looking over my shoulder, reflecting, those times that I'd clung to perfection, rationalizing my immobility by saying, hey, you're not ready, this isn't good enough. I'd only have to dig a few layers down to see that my not moving wasn't out of some loyalty to excellence. No, I was standing still because of fear. A fear of going, of starting, a fear of the unknown. Perfection is the biggest con there is. It's a scam. It says, wait here, your perfect moment will arrive. Hang tight, the right time is coming. No, there are no perfect beginnings. There's merely the courage to move into something new, or the regret that will ultimately come from wishing that you did. And sure, a part of it's almost counterintuitive. It's like, why isn't it beneficial to wait? Why would you want to take the leap before you're ready? Here's how I see it. One of the most important distinctions to understand is that between the thinker and the doer. The thinker who ponders, who reflects, who studies and studies and studies, thinking he or she can create for him or herself a perfect jump-off point. Thinking they can obtain for themselves all the necessary information, all the answers before they begin the journey. The truth is, greatness is forged through repetition via wheels on the road. And yes, you are terrible at first, completely unsure at first, you get lost at first. But this becomes the knowledge that shapes the journey. When you go before you're ready, two important things happen. First, after falling down and feeling embarrassed and insecure, you get back up, you look around and you go, wow, okay, I'm still here. That sucked, sure, but it wasn't as bad as my brain told me it would be. Next, you learn from the exchange. You can start doubling down on what works and eliminating what doesn't. And eventually, as you take this confidence and wisdom onto the next step, repeatedly, the curve becomes exponential. In doing, you begin stacking bricks, creating a foundation. Those experiences that humbled you become what you lean on. They're what turn into the experience, the knowledge, the credibility. And see, thinking you can skip all that ugly stuff by waiting on the ledge for perfection to arrive in your hands, that will be your undoing. That's just as crazy as a sailboat waiting for the wind to stop. It's like, no, you need that friction, that resistance to reach your destination. And no, we cannot control everything. Yes, there are powers beyond us. But if you go now, you learn to use and navigate them. The greatest gift we can give ourselves is permission to go. It's looking a year ahead and dreaming of the moment. We pause and say, wow, what a year. The twists and turns, the lessons, the highs, the lows, the peak moments all brought me here. And how different here is from back there. How far I've come. Knowing, by the way, that life was never asking me for perfection, but rather a willingness to start, to dive in, to adapt along the way. I know a lot of people with businesses that exist in their minds, but not in reality. A lot of people in shape when they close their eyes, but not when they look in the mirror. A lot of people living their best lives when talking about the future, but not when they pull up to work on a Monday morning. We shorten the gap between our ideal existence and the present moment by going, by stepping now. Even when we can't imagine how the process will unfold. Because let me tell you, life will bend and twist in ways you can't even fathom. It'll take you places that ignite your soul, show you things you never dreamt of seeing. But you have to put yourself in position to receive that from life. The world wants to help people who help themselves. So give yourself the gift of progress, of momentum. If a dream is only worth the action one is willing to take to bring it to life, let that action start now. Move beyond the illusion of perfection and towards the opportunity to take the imperfect every single day and transform it into greatness. Every time your mind says you're not ready, let that be your invitation to step forward. See, life may not be a race, but that doesn't mean time will politely wait for you. We must say goodbye to perfection. As we evolve, as we grow, I can guarantee you it won't be missed.